welcome to MediaSlam, where we're talking about the intersection of design, content, and technology. I am the host, Kurt Doty, aka The Dodester, and today I have a co-host, Evan Shapiro, who is an Emmy and Peabody Award-winning producer of many funny things, including Portlandia, one of my favorite shows. He is also producer at NYU and Fordham School of Business, as well as the co-host of the Cancel Culture podcast. Among many things, we want to talk about OpenAI and generative AI today. Namely, what the hell is happening because of ChatGPT. Okay, once again, I'm Kurt Doty. I'm a branding and marketing consultant with entertainment tech and Fortune 500 companies. And I have to mention our sponsor today, Rapid Innovation. They are on a mission to build great products that speed up the adoption of blockchain technology because they believe in its power to bring greater economic freedom to people around the world. They enable businesses like yours to build beautiful, user-friendly Web3 solutions, turning your ideas into a blockchain reality. Check out our entire sponsor lineup at kurtdoty.co/mediaslam. Let's get into it. All right, so Evan, your background is incredible. We both come from a television background, and you were actually an early advisor to us at Virtuo, so hopefully you remember that.
Of course.
And thanks so much for your advice and leadership there. I also appreciate your pronunciation of your last name, Shapiro, long I, correct?
It is. It's a Philadelphia pronunciation, which means poor white trash, but yes.
Awesome. So I appreciate that because I suffer the daggers as well with my last name being Doty.
Of course.
In fact, when I started out as an illustrator many years ago, my signature included a macron over the O. So art directors wouldn't embarrass themselves when they called me up. But listen, so today's topic, Evan, please elaborate on your history and what you are doing as the cartographer of the media universe here, and your POV on what's happening in the industry currently.
So really quickly, I've worked in entertainment or media my whole career. Started in live entertainment and theater, then moved over into marketing, running my own agency in the late '90s, and then into the early aughts. I sold that and then worked exclusively in television for a number of years. First as head of marketing for something called Court TV, which no longer exists, although actually it's back as a digital-only platform. Then head of marketing of IFC, then general manager of IFC, and then president of IFC and Sundance Channel. And between those two, I created a bunch of TV shows, including Portlandia. This film is not yet rated, and Brick City won an Emmy, won a Peabody. Moved over to Participant Media, started a television division for them. Moved over to NBC, started a streaming service called CISO, their first major direct-to-consumer streaming service, which they promptly shut down and then rebuilt as Peacock. And then since then, I've been out on my own. I produce, I write, I make most of my money from consulting as a outsourced strategy and media insights for Warner Music Group, Publishers Clearinghouse, a bunch of other companies that I won't talk about here. And I, run this all through the lens of this media insights as a service, which I publish on LinkedIn and my own newsletter. Most notably, I think people know me for this big map of the media universe I do. But I provide an ongoing set of insights around media and where it's headed, both for the companies and people in media, but also for the companies who just use media as opposed to who are in it. I also, as you said, teach at Fordham University and NYU.
Awesome. So, ChatGPT, we are experiencing what could be the birth of Web 4, though it's never really been called that. Maybe it starts today here with
Wait. What
us.
happened to Web 3? Did we even go through Web 3 yet?
Yeah, well, Web3, the minor components of that, which were NFT and cryptos, have, had their failings, and people still don't know what Web3 is. But in terms of the evolution of the web, and this is just me speaking, there hasn't been any kind of software upgrade or invention recently, or even in the Web3 universe, that has had so much impact is ChatGPT. So nomenclature aside, ChatGPT, what are your thoughts? What's going on, and how is it affecting our worlds?
I think there's this misperception that AI like this hasn't already been a huge part of our lives. This is the
Agreed.
most, I think, obvious permutation of it, because you literally have to go there and make a very specific request, and it puts out a very specific request, and then it's very specifically, constructed for a use in a certain way. But whether it's you going online and asking for tech support from some random outlet that you have on the weekend, and you're talking to an AI chat generator. I mean, whenever I make my changes to my Delta Airlines tickets on their app, which is a terrific piece of AI, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
I'm dealing with a chat AI, type of program. But then, go beyond that into the AI usage in your Google Maps. I can't get around New York City without a Google Map. Or go into the AI machine Unreal Engine, which is now being used in massive $100 million films for Marvel and Disney and other people as well. So AI is just enormously influential in our ecosystem already. This, I just think, is the most, I think, invasively seeming version of it, simply because it's attacking a field where the artisans feel most vulnerable, which is writing. So on one hand, I'm kind of, you know, uh, sanguine about it, because I just don't know that it's going to change a lot more than what. I don't think it's going to change things as dramatically as everybody's reacting to it. I think the major catalyst for this was, Microsoft's $10 billion investment in ChatGPT, or Gen AI, and so I think, on one hand, I don't necessarily think things are going to change as dramatically as people think they are. On the other hand, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in the space around specifically marketing. So, there are too many advertisers across the country to count, who are so small they can't afford an ad agency, right? So they're not
Mm-hmm.
going to go hire a copywriter to write a radio spot.
Mm-hmm.
But they could very easily have their head of marketing use ChatGPT to make a really good spot. Um, when you go to Facebook, and small advertisers around the country want to do a video campaign on Facebook, 50% of the video ads we see on Facebook right now are created by Gen AI. So an advertiser goes on, they have footage they want to upload, or they can tap into kind of a public domain set of footage that Facebook provides, and they can create an active, really engaging television commercial in a way that they never, for $1,000 marketing budget, never would have been able to be able to do on their own. So there are a tremendous amount of upsides in the media universe for artificial intelligence and its use in the ecosystem. On the other hand, anything taken too far, like AI or cocaine, is not a good thing.
Right, too much of a good thing can kill you. So you're correct in that AI is has been around for a long time. I got a LinkedIn request that was all in German last week, and I thought, oh, okay. Instead of asking back in English, please, or in English, bitte, I just said I'm gonna cut and paste and put this into Google Translate, and within 10 seconds I had the translation. Guess what? That's certainly an aspect of AI. Where would we be without all these inventions that we couldn't have conceived of 30 years ago without the internet? But like you said, Google Maps, mobile apps, period. So people forget about the convenience in which technology has given us more time to do better things instead of going to the library and looking up the Dewey Decimal System for some type of reference on a certain topic. Remember those days? But I think the key word with Chat GPT and generative AI, or Gen AI, as you mentioned, is the word create. Um, it's obviously AI has been around a long time, doing deep learning and connecting things and assimilating certain search functions, which may or may not replace Google. But the idea of creation, so the fact that it could write a poem, the fact that Dolly could, create a photorealistic image that you conjured up with a prompt. I think these are the things that are setting it apart from anything that's happened in, pre-November, actually. And so, um, and obviously as you mentioned, the artisans, the creatives, the copywriters, the illustrators, which I started as an illustrator. So, they're the ones that are threatened. But I also heard this meme, you're not going to be replaced by a robot if you're creative. You're going to be replaced by the person who embraced AI and
Correct.
is learning how to use it.
Correct.
And so I've been listening to many chat rooms on the new jobs that could be created. Think of the jobs that the internet created that weren't even conceived of 30 years ago. So we're going through that same transformation. What are those new jobs? I just saw a C-suite title called Chief Prompt Officer, someone who will work exclusively with AI. The University of Texas is offering a master's in AI. So it's already kind of recognized as a professional direction, not a replacement for certain aspects of uh, liberal education, higher education, low end writing and programming. So,
Right.
what do
And
you?
I do think so one, you're absolutely right. The number of jobs that will be generated in this world are going to be enormous. The question is how many jobs will it also replace, and therefore what's the net gain? On
Right.
the upside, I think there's going to be a whole, whether it's programming or management or chief prompt officer, a lot of new jobs created. There are going to be jobs that are going to be lost, just like are lost on the assembly line when robots come in.
Hmm.
So the retraining of our staffs is really going to be incredibly important with regards to not creating a net loss of jobs as we move forward. That said, on the other side, BuzzFeed saw their stock price pop a big number last week because they said they were basically going to replace writers with Chat GPT.
Yeah.
And that to me
Optics are horrible there.
tells you everything you need to know about the current panic around Chat GPT, which is mostly rich white dudes will use it to make money for themselves in ways that aren't really root or core to the actual technology itself. So Jonah Peretti, chief dickhead that he is, decided he wanted to pop his stock number by threatening to fire a whole bunch of writers and replacing them with robots, and it worked. But now, when you read his platform and it's entirely written by ChatGPT robots, it's going to read like it was written entirely by ChatGPT robots. There's
Right.
there is no to a certain extent the CD was never able to replace the nuance of the LP, and the LP is imperfect, and that's what makes it what it is. The air, the ruts, the whole thing. Our fallibility as humans is kind of what makes poems poems and songs songs. And I do think the low end writing, certain copywriting, certain bullshit, Hallmark card writing, yeah, that there's a great risk that you're going to lose those jobs to Chat GPT or some other AI. By the way, that's not a new thing. You should always have been scared of that because it's not what we call kind of high end creative. But as far as painters and true photographers and filmmakers and all that kind of stuff, I would encourage you go watch the clip of Billy Crudup on Jimmy Kimmel last week, where Jimmy Kimmel gave ChatGPT the prompt of write a scene about Billy Crudup starring Billy Crudup, and the ChatGPT spat it out, and then Billy had to do the scene. The scene was stupid. It was dumb. It was a dumb scene.
Yeah.
But because there was a human being performing it, adding his timing, adding his nuance, the meta nature of him being on screen, playing himself in a script written by a robot, like that was what made it cool. The next day, I had a student in my class give a presentation on ChatGPT, and she gave the program a prompt to write a short film about ChatGPT writing a short film. It's equally meta. And it was funny, but only because we knew the source, not because it was actually funny. There was, half the film was a series of montages about this robot taking over Hollywood, which is theoretically funny, but as a shootable script, not usable in any way, shape, or form. And so there are always going to be limitations, just like the Kobayashi Maru, which first foretold the advent of AI as a major force in, I don't remember what year, but I'm going to say 1966 on Star Trek with Captain Kirk. Go back and watch that episode, and you will see everything you both need to know and want to fear and need not to fear about AI as a kind of replacement for humans inside the ecosystem that we operate.
Okay, so let's say the human comment, the human expression of anything created by ChatGPT highlights the fact that robots can only do so much. The idea that it being used as a tool, so an intermediate tool. So I've heard about, brainstorming sessions. It's like, give me 10 ideas about, how to make fun of something, that may be a comedy bit, but it could spark some ideas on the human side, right? Whoever's actually, using it, and being that editorial mind that sifts through it and decides what's garbage and what was like, hey, I never even thought of that, like, which you would get out of a human brainstorm session, because good ideas can come from anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly right.
so I have seen this as an intermediate tool, as in terms of artwork. The idea of using it as a pre-visualization tool. If you can imagine, Ralph McQuarrie, who, designed Star Wars, if he had this tool, he wouldn't have had to do those paintings that he did, which are gorgeous, right? But he could have generated not, 10 key paintings, but he could have created 1,000. And think of what that might have done for the Star Wars universe in terms of imagining these new worlds, right? So again, that's in the hands of a Ralph McQuarrie, God rest his soul, who is this kind of a conductor of these prompts that has that overall aesthete to be influenced, and we're all influenced by all kinds of things, but be influenced and then guide something from that pre-visualization into reality. So I think those who need and want to embrace AI should look at it that way and not necessarily shun it. Do you feel the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, it's another color on the palette. It's another brush in the quiver. And the new entertainment experiences, especially in gaming, there's no way that humans can generate everything that's necessary to fill a universe like that in a way that doesn't cost $100 million.
Right.
The only way we can get to kind of where we are, and Roblox is a really good example of this, is to basically complement computer learning or machine learning with human, nuance and talent and interaction and vision and emotion and fallibility. Frankly, it is the mistakes that sometimes sometimes make a piece of art even better. And we can look at a lot of the masters who basically had something painted and then painted over it to start something new. And then in my mind, the writers or the creators, frankly, who have been least successful or who most rely on things outside of talent are the ones who feel most vulnerable to the advent of this new technology. But those who understand how, to your point, this can basically lay foundational work for them to make derivative work that's even better or faster or more lucrative or more voluminous, those are the ones. I mean, look, Andy Warhol, granted, it wasn't machine learning and it wasn't AI, but he wouldn't have become the artist that he was if he didn't have what's called literally the factory.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and saw this play called The Collaboration, which is about the friendship between Jean-Michel Baptiste and him when he gets, I'm sorry, Basquiat, Jean-Michel Basquiat pulls him into painting again and helps him fall in love with painting again. And then suddenly the two of them using their kind of like brand iconography plus actual painting, that was a whole new level of artistry. I think it's a really good analogy for this moment in time. I think the people who are less reliant on their own talent are the ones who are feeling most vulnerable to these Gen AI machines, and the ones who have always embraced technology as kind of a new way to make and distribute their art will get substantially more out of this machine learning than taken away from them.
Yeah, and you're talking about specific art types, those who already are talented, right? There is a pool of people who will, not having an ounce of creativity in their body, will say, okay, I'm an artist now. I'm a writer now. And to me, that's part of the scam of technology enabling those who should never be in the business anyway. Any thoughts about that potential for badness?
I mean, bad art is always going to be celebrated by certain people. We can go through. I mean, the Kardashians
Yeah.
have made a huge industry out of that, right?
Right.
But that was not made by AI. That was made by human beings just repeating and upsizing what had come before it. Remember, what's his name? The heavy metal guy and his family. Now I can't remember their names. Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh,
they did that first. This is not
Yeah.
a new idea. And this American family, or an American family, did it in the 70s. So these are not new ideas. These are all derivative works of art. And I think the people who say they're artists now and use AI as a way of kind of accelerating their entrance into the marketplace, like they were going to find some other crutch to do it, and a lot of them were going to succeed regardless of having no talent, and that's not new. I mean, Paris Hilton, like I can go down the long list of human beings who have no talent who have made it in media.
Right.
So
Right.
having nothing to do with Gen AI. So I think ultimately by the way, this story gets recreated every 20 years too. People were going to make pop songs using machine learning, and they were going to make movies. And I remember that trailer that AI made 10 years ago. And I mean, every 10 years we hear this story, and then there's never a top 10 song made by a piece of AI.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like it never. There's never been a movie that was generated by a machine that is the number one movie, or even number 10 movie, or even top 100 movie. Like it doesn't happen, and I do believe that that's because the fallibility of human beings adds substantially more to the art and the reception of art than people give credit to.
Yeah, and that's a fascinating topic. You think about music, right, which is just starting now to, ChatGPT can write music, evidently, let alone write code. But, you know, I think when you watch a live orchestra, playing Mozart. Um, you're seeing this rhythm of the human body playing these instruments. And at times, they're given periods of rest to recover from a very energetic section of the song. And then they take it up again, and you see this move throughout all the different sections, whether the string section, the brass, whatever. And that's all orchestrated, but it's orchestrated because a human wrote it.
Well, and,
And,
and, and specifically the conductor with an orchestra, if you watch Tar,
mm-hmm.
you know, the conductor has made a series of choices to interpret the music, right? But then there's also good, bad, indifferent, the relationship between the conductor and each individual player in the orchestra. That level of human relationship throughout all of those people is why it sounds the way it does. And I can tell you, there is absolutely no way that a machine is going to be able to replace that. Absolutely. In fact, it'll sound, quote unquote, too perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of nuance and breadth, as you just said, breadth and context, there's so much more that's built inside great art or emotionally driven art than anyone, unless you've actually written a book or painted a painting or made a movie, it's hard to understand how much goes into it. But if you remember the books, paintings, or movies that most affected you emotionally, the ones that you remember inspired you the most, the human interactions amongst all the people it took to make that work of art are why you felt that way. Good, bad, and different. Whether it's the sexual harassing director who was a crazy person, every Hitchcock movie ever.
Yeah.
Not saying it's good. I'm just saying we know what kind of dickhead he was, and to a certain extent, that's why he got the reaction he did out of the movies he got. To the Picasso and the absolute obsession with his own significance that he brought to every painting he created. There's no way to build that into a computer. There just isn't.
Yeah. Well, Picasso is interesting because, I think at the age of 12, he could paint in the style of any master
Right.
painter, any
He
type of
was AI.
Renaissance. Yeah. And um, and then he shifted and devolved over the years, where at the end of his life he was saying, I'm just doing these little drawings, and that's me, and that's all I want to do, and that's it. And that came from a lifetime of the intellectual pursuit of what makes a great painting.
Right, and I'm mixing artistic metaphors here, but no AI is on its own going to decide to have a blue period. It's
Right.
just not going to
Exactly.
happen. It's,
Right.
like today I'm going to paint now with all blue hues. Well,
Hmm.
there's a reason why artists do this, and part of it is their own boredom or neuroses, not having nothing to do with their artistry. And that's what, Da Vinci was a freaking lunatic, right? He was trying to fly, he was building machines, and he was painting, he was sculpting. Like, there isn't, you can't not teach a machine to do that. Because a machine, by dint of its own, 2001: A Space Odyssey aside, but the machine, by dint of its own, isn't going to go insane. It can't. It's literally impossible for it to think that way. So whether it's Van Gogh or Beethoven, who was deaf, or whatever, the human nuance is. I just think there's a lot more. I think it's a convenient thing to get worried about right now because Microsoft just made a huge investment, and because now Google today made an investment in a competing piece of machine learning platform. You know, we will continue, and the self-driving cars. Like, we're all going to go crazy about it, and the Wachowski siblings, taught us to be afraid of the Matrix for good reason. But I don't think this is the part of the Matrix we need to be most worried about. The part of the Matrix to be most worried about is the artificial intelligence that steals our privacy and sells it on an open market, that replicates us in the marketplace and destroys our credit.
Right.
That basically generates false clicks on platforms, creating a whole ad economy that doesn't actually really exist, Facebook and Google. Those are the things that AI scares me most about, not the ones where, like, hey, this copywriter isn't going to get $20 an hour anymore to write, greeting cards or obituaries because we got a chat GPT to do it instead. All right, I feel bad for that writer, but that writer could probably be doing better things anyway.
And working for more money. Um, so you give me encouragement on the human side. And you mentioned this dark side. There's always the good and the bad, the dark and the light, right? And I think creativity is the light. I think AI maybe can maximize creative people's time to achieve some type of higher level of performance and maximize their creativity in a way that they couldn't before, just based on time management and how AI can help commoditize some of those simpler tasks. And then there's the people who always lived in the simpler tasks that might be losing their jobs. And then there becomes this class separation of the higher enabled and enlightened people, and then the displaced people, which could have some sociological implications in terms of unemployment and a new class system. I'm going way out here on a theoretical, but what do you see happening with those aspects of how?
I actually take a kind of, and this is probably not surprising to anybody who's ever heard me or read me, but I take a kind of countervailing approach to that, which is the upper echelons or the most lucrative parts of, and I'm going to just focus on media because that's where you and I spend most of our time. The most lucrative areas of media have been the exclusive um, territory of rich people for a
Mhm.
very long time, with very few exceptions. And that is because America basically has become a caste system whereby at the age of 18, the country is divided amongst those who can afford to go to college and those who really can't. And amongst those who can, we're still divided even further amongst those who can afford to go to a certain level of school, community colleges, and things like that, and those who can afford to go to private institutions and Ivy Leagues. And in media, at all levels, you are much more likely to be successful if you went to a private college or, most especially, an Ivy League college. You're 156 times more likely to have gone to a Ivy League school than the average American if you work
Mhm.
in some aspect of the media. And when you realize that 60% of our country doesn't go to college, so to me, these Gen AI and other machine learning platforms actually are a potential opportunity for those who have been typically left out. Write more like rich white people want to hear in a resume or a cover letter. Help navigate the ghetto walls around Hollywood using machine learning to make the best contacts and do more networking. Like, I do think that there's a chance to use these new technologies to better democratize the world of media than has traditionally been done up until now. Maybe that's a little bit pied-eyed optimist of myself, but I do think if we can remove, where and who you are at birth from determining all your opportunities in life, I think you know artificial intelligence might be one of those things to help us suss out true innate talent versus connectivity via your family network.
Hmm. Right. Nepo babies,
Yeah,
right?
Nepo babies. Yeah, that's exactly right. Look,
Yeah.
look at every single, I mean, and it's not just in front of the camera and behind the camera, it's in the executive suites too.
Hmm.
How many heads of companies right now in the media universe were born into the lifestyles that they have? That has nothing to do with talent.
Right.
Nothing at all. And I'm glad that every single one of Meryl Streep's daughters are making it in show business. But that's not entirely because she passed down her talent. It's in large part because she passed down her network.
Yeah.
And so, like, I do think if we can use these technologies to equalize the playing field a little bit more, mostly around class, forgetting race, forgetting gender for a second, because ultimately, if you take care of financial justice and financial equity and economic equity, you will take care of a lot of the other issues we face from a diversity, equity, and inclusion situation. So maybe, just maybe, we can fix our pipeline problem, quote unquote, um, using these types of technologies. There's a great new organization called Hustle Up,
Mm-hmm.
who is basically using a certain amount of AI to help make connections between brand new minds and voices in media and opportunities in media. I think we need to be doing a much better version of that, just generally speaking, as an industry. And I'm up for any tool that helps make that happen.
Yeah, matchmaking. Yeah, that's very encouraging. I, think back to old media versus new media, mainly broadcast television versus YouTube. Look how empowering, having the ability to make movies on your smartphone and how that has enabled all kinds of creators. They created a new economy with the creator economy, to just be able to not hire a crew, shoot themselves, and put it up on YouTube and become an influencer. And that didn't exist 20 years ago. And it was technology enabled. It wasn't necessarily AI, but it was the power of the camera in your pocket and a platform that would allow you to upload your content without the review of some type of creative executives at a studio based in Hollywood, to decide what content goes where. Um, that certainly
Yeah,
empowered a
and
whole
that's exact.
generation.
Yeah, and if you look at TikTok, for all my problems, all the problems I have with TikTok, in that it is a spyware program for the Chinese government, and
Just small
a
problem, but
and
yeah.
a crack pipe that is depressing an entire generation into suicide. Putting those problems aside, as a creator platform, it's massive. It's amazing. Like the editing tools, the music available, all that kind of, and then discovery, which is all driven by AI, is really empowering for young artists.
Yeah.
And I think those who uh, don't understand the current place we are in the media economy, where the creator economy is taking on equal footing with the gatekeeper economy.
Oh, definitely.
Reese Witherspoon created a massive company that she sold for $1 billion based on an AI moderated email reading book club.
Right.
And
Crazy.
she was able to turn any book she buys into a bestseller, and then she owns the rights for that thing. And so, yeah, to a certain extent, she has great taste, but she also has this piece of machine, this machinery that empowers her in a way that no way she would have 25 years ago, 30 years ago been able to do. So I do think there's tons of examples out there of artists being empowered by these technologies as opposed to being disempowered.
Hmm.
I think if we allow ourselves to panic at the sight of every new technology, we will continually make the mistakes that every new bubble makes.
Right.
We can watch it have happened. Every mistake we could have made with NFTs, we made every single one,
Yeah. Oh my God.
and including the hype bubble and all the other kind of bullshit stuff that we could have created. And a bit of that was accelerated by the fact that we're all under lockdown at the same time.
Right.
But if all you do is pay attention to the dumbest bullshit being done with a new technology when it gets created, then you will have slept on every major technological advance that media and content has made, including you know everything you talked about, the cameras that we use on our phones, the self-correcting filters we use on all of our mobile cameras. Like,
Hmm.
these things are huge advances for us, not dangers for us.
Um, Evan, as you talked about uh, the idea of being closed-minded and not and and believing some of the negative hype and paranoia around any new technology. The point that I think to make is it's creative people who can uh, provide a level of critical thinking about the opportunities that this presents versus immediately go to a limited mindset of how does this affect me and my income, which is, the low road, so to speak. The high road is recognizing the opportunity and being a creative, taking what is just technology to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I may be overly crassly commercial, but every time I see a new piece of technology, I'm like, how can that help me make more money? And I consider myself an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself a creator. And the best example I can give you is Substack, which is the platform on which I publish my newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much artificial intelligence behind that platform, whether it's the analytics I get provided based on the performance of the stuff that I write, to the ability to process subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not something I could do on my own.
Right.
And until they created that platform driven by AI, there would have been no way for me to truly monetize the content I'm making on a regular basis. And whether it's Apple's new direct to podcast subscription platform, or Patreon's bespoke subscription mechanism, artists have been benefiting from the advent of these new technologies. And now none of these are creative generative AI examples necessarily, but let's just use spell check or
Right.
grammar check. Like, I use them on literally everything I write. There's rarely a time I'm writing something, and I write every day. There's rarely a time I don't right click on a word and go synonym.
Right. Right.
So these are incredibly relevant and additive mechanisms that artificial intelligence, machine learning has helped me expedite and frankly proofread and make the quality of my work better. Do I feel like any of these AI platforms deserve credit for what I've written? Absolutely fucking not. I write hard. None of them can write good jokes. These are all my charts that I'm making. So, to a certain extent, they just made me more proficient at the artistry I have. And that, to me, if you're a craftsperson and a new piece of technology enters your field, if you're not jumping on it to learn how it makes you better at what you do and help you raise your average revenue per human you touch, well, then shame on you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Hey, listen, we got a couple people on stage. Let's go to Scott Pansing. Scott, do you have any questions, or how do you want to contribute here?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me up. Kurt, I only recently became aware of your content, but Evan, I've been following you for some time, and thank you for everything you provide to the
Me too.
community. I follow you on LinkedIn a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think to go back to something you guys were talking about at the beginning about how AI has been around for decades and is pervasive in many technologies, whether it be Google Maps or whatever. What I'm fascinated with is how, you know, this notion of like like the AI for us peasants, and I say that, I mean, I worked at Google for 11 years until very recently, and I was always like, hey, when are these tools like Siri and Alexa gonna do more than like pull up a recipe or tell me the weather? Um, I can't believe on my iPhone with my AirPods and Siri, all software and hardware by the same company, I can't even tell it to turn my AirPods from transparency mode to noise cancellation. Can't do it. These things have been basically stuck in the mud, it feels like, for a long time. And I think that's why something like ChatGPT coming out now in the hands of everyone, I mean, it's just light years ahead of the quote, AI in our pockets for a long time. So not really a question, but sort of a response to that. Um, and I think one thing that I would say that we haven't talked about much here that I'd throw out is all of the policy and guardrails, and whether it, moderation that's going to be needed. You're probably aware of this Twitch never-ending live stream. It was kind of like a Seinfeld, where it was a non-moderated AI-based sitcom going on Twitch for months. Yesterday, I guess it started making homophobic and transphobic jokes, and Twitch
It's
just
only a matter of time.
yeah. So the fact that I think humans do need to be, and like you're saying with BuzzFeed and all these things, if it's just literally like push a button and let the AI do the content without any human involvement, the quality won't be good. And I don't really feel like the BuzzFeed content, personally, the quality is very good anyway. I feel like I could sit and tell ChatGPT to make, I could come up with 50 BuzzFeed articles out of ChatGPT in 10 minutes. But at the end of the day, there still needs to be a human going like, okay, is it telling everyone to be a Nazi? I got to make sure I'm not, putting something out there that's bad. So anyway, loving the discussion, and thanks for inviting me up.
Great, thank you, Scott. Nikolai, you joined. You want to ask a question or contribute here?
Hey everyone, I'm just unable to speak right now. I'll be probably in 15 minutes if the room is still on. I just wrote in the chat.
Okay, no problem. But thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you joining us. On some of Scott's ideas, and he has a new podcast we should all follow, by the way. The idea that Microsoft's investment and recognizing the fact that it wants to incorporate, which is, I think, a natural thing, ChatGPT into Word, PowerPoint, all their products, right? So, how many PowerPoints do you do? And it's like, hey, write this PowerPoint for me, and then I'm gonna, do some minor editing and add some graphics. But again, a time saver. It's a tool. Otherwise, you're spending a lot of time just writing from scratch. Why not have these tools to enable you? Microsoft's going to make it ubiquitous, and I think that ubiquity is something that takes the technology to the next level, because not everyone could get on ChatGPT 3. It reached capacity pretty quick, and now they're going to offer a subscription. So I think Microsoft joining the party in terms of making it ubiquitous, I think, is a major thing.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And it goes back to what I've been saying before, which is these things. The automobile made us better at delivering mail. If we see every piece of new technology as a threat, every hammer sees, everything as a nail. So yeah, your initial reaction is going to be to be adversarial to it. But if you see every new piece of technology as an opportunity, then it presents more avenues for exploitation by humans, not instead of.
Right. There's two examples that I love. The Pony Express, how they revolutionized the delivery of mail back in the Old West, and all the romance of riding horses to deliver mail to the town. You know how long that lasted? Something like 2 weeks or a month. I mean, it was just a spick, in the timeline of mail delivery.
Right.
The other one is,
and yet we always refer to it as
it exists, people, but boy, it didn't last long. The other thing is silent movies where orchestras played the soundtrack in theaters across the country. When the talkies came out, you didn't need the orchestra anymore.
Well, and there was this big upheaval amongst musicians, like, oh, this is going to kill us forever. And in reality, yeah, fewer live paying gigs, but a lot more recorded gigs.
Right, but yeah, it displaced, an orchestra in every theater across the country, and there was suicides, and it was a tragic outcome. But again, people don't really remember or even know that live orchestras played with those movies. we're entering our last few minutes here, and I did want to give Evan a shout out, two shout outs, because one, and this is only going to be the only political reference in these. I'm trying to keep politics out of these conversations, but you had given a great video presentation on LinkedIn or whatever your platforms are, on the comparison between how the Nazis came to power and relating in a very articulate way how that is being mirrored pre-midterms, our political climate today. And I have to say that was so awesome, and you likely saved democracy with that speech. And so I'm very thankful for your point of view and the ability to articulate complex, problems to society. And you're just, my hero in that respect. The other
I appreciate that
thing that I want to give you a shout out is, I think in December you were in Clubhouse with your top 10 predictions in some room. And you mentioned your evolution and your pivot in your career. And I believe you had asked one of your advisors on what to do at a certain point in your career. And he said, maybe it was Fred, I forget, but he said, greenlight yourself to you. And that's exactly what you did. And I thought that was profound for me. And just so you know, because you said that and put that out there in the world, just since Christmas, I created my whole MediaSlam kind of content platform for me be able to talk to people like you and to write about the things that I, care about, design, content, technology. And I just want to let you know that it had a profound impact on me. And thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate that a lot. And, in both cases, they're examples of, without technology, neither would have happened for me. Mm-hmm. And this conversation is a really good example of it. Probably has, a positive impact on you as well. Yeah. The greenlight yourself, hire yourself as your own CEO, tract that I talk about a good deal, is highly driven by technology and machine learning. Mm-hmm. I publish on LinkedIn every day because the machines like it. And it helps me find an audience that I can't find on my own. And, it gives me analytics back that teach me how to be more targeted in the things that I write. And by dint of the technology making me smarter about my own content, I reach more people, I have greater impact. And so, that's kind of everything that there's never been a better time to run your own creative enterprise, because you can literally do it with yourself and the machines. Yeah. But you have to understand what that throttle looks like, and you have to train yourself on how to take the curves. And those who do will succeed and will basically build their own set of leverage points in the larger media economy. Those who don't will suffer.
Yeah, awesome. That's it for today. Thanks, Evan, for being a great co-host. Please join the MediaSlam House on Clubhouse. Follow me, Kurt Doty, or follow Evan Shapiro. Thanks again to our sponsor, Rapid Innovation. Look for more upcoming announcements. And please subscribe to our new YouTube channel here, like and comment. Our music today was provided by The Whole Other. The song is Orbiting Nowhere.
MediaSlam is a podcast, YouTube channel and publication of kurtdoty.co that discusses the intersection of design, content and technology. Follow Kurt Doty on LinkedIn and Clubhouse and subscribe here. To learn more, go to www.kurtdoty.co/MediaSlam. Copyright symbol 2023 Kurt Doty Company LLC. All rights reserved. Reproduction, in whole or part, without permission of the publisher is prohibited.